And so should see it now that we're recording. Perfect. All right. So I want to just quickly share some of the most basic but urgent news we've learned in the sense of the flood of ineligibility over this past weekend. So I just want to kind of set the tone of what we know so far. Then I'm going to go to your questions in the chat. And then if folks have more questions, you can unmute yourself and ask that question. It might be good to use the hand raise feature if you had that on your Zoom, but if not, you know, we'll figure it out when we get there. This is our first time doing a Zoom call. It might be a little messy, but that's okay. We're gonna figure this out together. So, so just to start off with, right? It has been horrific to deal with the Connect website and to deal with the Department of Economic Opportunity. I want to be clear that our team is well aware of how bad the website is, how bad the call center is, doesn't even exist, how confusing this entire process has been. So we're aware of that. We have been advocating to the governor's office about it. We've been advocating to both DO and now DMS about it. Actually today, I found the emails of attorneys who work at DO, and I emailed all three of them and just asked them point blank questions, because even as a lawmaker, when I'm talking to their staff, they're doing their best, but they don't always know the answers. And so I'm like, you know, kind of tired of having to wait for callback. So I went straight to the general counsel because they're the ones who interpret statute the most. So we're doing everything we can to be as aggressive as possible. But I am not DO. I don't oversee DO. As many of you already know, DO is an agency of the executive branch. I'm in the legislative branch. But we're doing our best to knock on doors, to push down doors if we need to, and to get answers. So hopefully, you know, we'll provide some sense of relief or information to let you know of next steps. With that said, this past weekend, we saw many folks start getting paid, which we'll talk about in a second. We also saw a flood of people who are ineligible. So let's unpack that, right? So people were waiting weeks, many since March, to get some answer from DEO. And this includes people who have filed paper websites, have filed with the mobile-friendly PEGA website, and of course with Connect. It's important to remember that everyone who files for unemployment in Florida has to use Connect. Connect is the tool that lets you access money. So even if you filed on a paper application or you did an application on that mobile-friendly website, it all gets eventually transferred to Connect, okay? And so folks who became eligible, whether it was this weekend or before, are starting to see some benefits. They're seeing a small amount of state benefits, and of course the $600 or the $540 if they withheld federal taxes into their bank accounts, or maybe a check, but it seems like direct deposit has been the norm based on what we're learning from folks we're working with. And so back pay has been guaranteed by the administration, but and that includes the CARES Act money and the state money for those who are already eligible. And I'll talk about the ineligible group in a second, but for those who are eligible, we've gotten many questions from people who said, I see the state money, I don't see the federal money. You don't have to apply to something else. The federal money is coming, okay? And I would say if you don't see it in 2 to 3 days, to let us know. I'm seeing some questions about back pay. So for those who are eligible, we have heard of folks receiving back pay. We got, one person sent me a screenshot of 3 $600 deposits in their account. So we are seeing back pay through the CARES Act for those who have been ineligible. But I spoke to DMS today, and as a reminder, DMS is the Department of Management Services. John Satter, who the governor put to oversee DO, he's the secretary of DMS. So we have been talking to DMS staff as well as DO staff. And they told me not even 30 minutes ago that back pay for the CARES Act, the $600 is happening, but it comes in batches. And so you might get one set of money before the other, but they're not supposed to come at the same time because it's 2 separate accounts, right? One is state, one is federal. So I encourage folks to wait maybe 48 hours after you become eligible. And if you don't see that money, to please let us know. But you want to give it some time to come in. Some folks over the weekend came out as eligible but inactive, okay? So we have asked DO and DMS, what does that mean? Why can someone be eligible and inactive? And they told us that it was a problem on their side and they're going to fix it. So at this point, if you are eligible but inactive, you do not have to do anything right now. And that's coming from DO, right? I'm only going to share what these agencies have told me, because I am not going to speculate and impact your application in a negative way. But this is what they've told me. And if that changes, I will let you know. Okay. So now let's talk about the ineligible folks, right? And this is probably the most frustrating because you waited weeks to become ineligible. And so for these folks, it was announced last night that DO is encouraging everyone to reapply. Now, I want to, and I see a question about not registered, so I will go through the chat and I'll answer that question. But for folks that came out ineligible, DO is now encouraging you to reapply. And there's a few reasons for that. And candidly, I'm trying to learn more as well, because I am concerned that there are people that were deemed ineligible that should have been eligible. And that's just, me looking at their base period, knowing that they're W-2 workers. So there's been cases with our hotel workers, Hilton, Marriott, Disney workers. We are hearing these stories, and we have told and asked DMS, the DO, could have been a problem with the work search requirement, because the governor said that was waived, but people were still asked to do that. So I have asked DMS, hey, do you think are you 100% sure that work search requirement was not the reason why people became ineligible? And they told me they did not know for sure, and they would get back to me. And I also asked about the claiming of weeks. Like, could that have been an issue too? And we've heard a lot of misinformation about the claiming of weeks, if I have to do it or not. You do not have to claim your weeks. And I know there's been conversations online of, well, those are the only weeks I got money for, so I have to claim my weeks. But I'm pretty sure DO yesterday, I saw on many accounts, they removed the option to claim your weeks because it's not supposed to be necessary anymore. And we are always asking questions to learn more about that. But time and time again, DO has told us you do not have to claim your weeks, and they published that in the resource guide on pages 5 and 6. Okay, so I want to just hopefully provide some comfort on that you're not going to be punished if you didn't certify your weeks, because again, it was waived by the governor. But we are trying to make sure that it wasn't that both of these executive orders that were not operationalized and connect didn't end up punishing people. So we are looking into that, and we've asked DO and DMS. Now, ultimately, a lot of people who are ineligible probably are ineligible in the state of Florida. And I say that because the state of Florida, as many of you have already discovered, has a broken unemployment system that is designed to push you out, that is designed for you to be ineligible. And actually, if it's okay with y'all, I'm gonna share my screen with you real quick. And I just wanna walk through some of the eligibility requirements that you might have been impacted by, even unknowingly, right? And so let me pull this up real quick. I want to read about the base period, because it's not simple. And I've seen a few emails from folks who have asked, I had 3 months of wages before this, but again, the base period is not about wages. The base period is about quarters. And so please excuse my very messy screen right now. All right, so you should be seeing an article that is from a legal website about collecting unemployment benefits in Florida, okay? And so I've shared this link with a lot of people. We actually have this link in our latest blog post as well, but I just want to walk through Florida unemployment benefits eligibility requirements, okay? So you must meet 3 eligibility requirements to collect unemployment in Florida. Your past earnings must meet certain minimum thresholds. You must be unemployed through no fault of your own as defined by Florida law. And you must be available, actively looking for work. And of course, that's been waived by the governor. But when you go to base period right here, so this section talks about base period, okay? So every state has a base period. This is not unique to Florida, but of course, Florida's approach to the base period is going to be in our statute. In 2011 created this base period, right? And so during this base period, your work history and earnings must meet all three of these requirements. So what is a base period? If you applied in March of 2020, your base period started October 2018. Okay, let's say that one more time. If you applied in March of 2020, then your base period started October 2018 because it's in quarters. So that's 5 quarters away. And if you applied in April of 2020, your base period started January 2019. Okay, so when you're trying to decide, was your ineligibility correct or not correct, I would definitely encourage folks to calculate that base period and just to check it, right, with Florida law, because that gives you more ammunition to defend yourself, right, with DO, and give us that information so we can tell DO they got it wrong. But it also helps if you should apply for a pandemic unemployment assistance, PUA, which I'll talk about next. And so again, that's when your base period would start based on what month you applied. The issue is that March and April are 2 different quarters, right? So January, February, March is quarter 1. April, May, June is quarter 2. So that calendar year was, impacted when people's wages were started when it came to base period. And so real quick, and I'll close this screen, but you must have back to base. So during the base period, your work history and earnings must meet all 3 of these requirements. You must be paid wages in at least 2 of the 4 calendar quarters that make up the base period. Your earnings during the entire base period must be at least 1.5 times your wages in the highest paid quarter. So for example, if you earned $5,000 during your highest paid quarter, then your total earnings for the base period must be at least $7,500. Okay, so that's some of the math you want to do when you're trying to determine if you're eligible under Florida law or not. And then finally, you must have earned at least $3,400 during the entire base period, because that's the allotment that Florida gives you. You're supposed to, it's not a lot of money. It's embarrassing low. But the point is that Florida wants you to basically work for your benefit. So you're supposed to work at least up to what Florida would give you. It's complete trash. And I'm not going to dive into my opinions of the policy. I was elected in 2018, so I am a freshman lawmaker. But obviously I never would have voted for that if I had the chance. And so to that point, that's what you need to just calculate when you're trying to figure out, am I eligible or not in Florida? And the reality is that these requirements really do box a lot of people out, especially if you're self-employed, a gig worker, a contract worker, a part-time worker. There's a lot of reasons why Florida might throw you as being not eligible for state benefits. And that's where Pandemic Unemployment Assistance kicks in, PUA. And after I talk about this, I will go to everyone's questions. So I apologize for the long introduction. But PUA is under the CARES Act, and it's 100% federally funded. And in most cases, we've talked about PUA in the context of some of those workers I just described, right? Contract workers, self-employed workers, gig economy workers. But if you actually read the law that Congress passed, PUA is also supposed to be available to those that are otherwise ineligible in their state. And PUA has a completely different base period. It does not reflect the state's base period. So the point is that it's supposed to give folks during this pandemic an alternative way to apply for benefits. Now, Florida has been very slow to roll this out. Obviously, they just rolled it out this week. It was terrible because they're asking everyone to reapply so that your application starts after April 5th. And the first question I had when I saw that screenshot from someone to DO was, why are we making people reapply? That sounds terrible. And their answer to me was, it has to do with the quarter. So again, we just talked about base period. For whatever reason, and to be honest, I'm looking for answers. When I emailed those attorneys at DO, I was asking about this question because the comms director for DO said that because of Florida law, people needed to reapply in the new quarter. But if that's the case, why couldn't the governor have just done an executive order to change that? So I am trying to learn more. But for the time being, everyone is being asked that if you applied before April 5th, so April 4th and before, you have to reapply. Reason being is that you will not see the pandemic unemployment assistance portal pop up on your dashboard in Connect unless you apply after April 5th, are deemed ineligible once more, and then it should show up on your dashboard the next day. I don't know if y'all saw the tweet from DO today. They only update the Connect once a day. So that's a good tip. I wish they told us that a long time ago, because I know many people log in multiple times a day, but apparently you only have to log in once to get your update. And so you're not going to see the portal pop up immediately, but you're supposed to see it in 24 hours, right? And I know the biggest fear that people have expressed to me is, I'm going to lose my weeks that I had claimed and waited for. PUA is retroactive. It guarantees back pay. It's 100% federally funded. So when you reapply, and if you get, you're ineligible and you apply for PUA, you're going to put on that application your date of unemployment to be a timestamp. And so the congressional law requires back pay. So you will have back pay, even if it's a new application. I want to make sure y'all know that. Another issue with PUA that came to my attention today, actually two main issues. One was that the work search requirement was still there. And again, it's been waived by the governor, and DO told me twice now that they're trying to get rid of it, but people can just fill in COVID-19 and just kind of, fill out the boxes to get rid of them. You don't have to ignore them, but you also don't have to fill them out correctly. DO has said that will be removed. The other issue that we heard about is the uploading of documents. Apparently, to prove your self-employment or to prove your wages, you have to submit documents under PUA, but people are having to fax or mail. And so I asked about an email option and a way to upload documents. They're going to get back to me as well on that. So, your questions are important to us because we lift them up. We do our best to get answers. Everything I know about DO and DMS, it's because of you, because you have asked us questions and we have done our best to get answers. And so, keep asking your questions. With that said, I'm going to start going through questions now. And like I said, I want to go through the questions that people submitted in the chat because it's more organized that way versus folks unmuting themselves and talking over each other. But if we go through these chat questions and your question isn't answered, then I will ask people to unmute themselves, and we're just going to have to take it one by one, okay? So we're going to do this together. We have 100 people with us tonight, so we have to be as organized as possible, okay? So, and if folks want to give me a thumbs up, if they're listening, this has been helpful. I appreciate that. Thank you, John. Anyone else? Let me know. Awesome. Thank you. Good. I feel like I'm talking too much. So if any of this is not helpful, tell me to stop. Okay. And we can move on. Okay. So I'm going to go to the top of these questions and we're just going to take it away. So, so let's see what we got going on. All right, just going through everyone's introductions right now. Good to see some constituents. Love you guys. Love all of our Floridians. Okay, let me see. Yeah, a lot of people calling DO thousands of times. It's awful. I complain to them every day about that. Yeah, so many glitches.
98 times.
Yeah, it's crazy. I know. Well, and something else too that I'll add, the Connect website still doesn't work. And so I talked to DO about NDMS about this yesterday and about an hour ago. They say they keep making improvements, they're trying to make improvements. They did tell me that the identity verification process has been improved substantially. And one fear that people have expressed to me is if they have to reapply, are they going to wait again? And DO has told me that the wait time is severely shortened because your identity is already verified. And we do have some folks that we're working with who told us that they reapplied, they got their ineligibility status very quickly, and then they applied for PUA. So the biggest problem though has just been the bad website, glitches, restarts, it's just, the website is still terrible. And if folks have tips to share, please share them in the chat, because I know everybody would appreciate any tips on the website. Okay. And so let me see where the first question is. I see everyone talking to each other, so that's awesome. Okay, so they're still requiring you to report if you're looking for a job and they're holding 1 week but law. Okay, this is a good question. So two points to this question. So the waiting week, right? So the governor waived the waiting week starting on March 29th. So we are facing some challenges because we have constituents and Floridians who started their application before March 29th and they're still being impacted by the waiting week. We also have folks that were right on the line, right before the executive order happened. And so their week, though they technically applied March 29th, their week is starting before. And so they're still having a waiting week earlier. So I have asked the governor's office, we have submitted 2 cases today about the waiting week. So we are looking for more answers. But if your application started after March 29th, you should not have a waiting week at all. You should be paid for that week. And it can take time for DO to correct that in your account, but I know they're actively looking for people who need to get money for the waiting week. And today I did ask the governor's staff about when we were going to extend the waiting week and other executive orders, because these executive orders are set to expire in May. So I have asked about their extensions. And the same thing for the work search requirement, right? So if you are still seeing that job work search requirement, you can totally fill it out and just put gibberish in it. That is literally what DO told me. I know that's not a good answer, but they're trying to get rid of it, just like how they remove the certification of weeks. They're trying to implement the executive orders into Connect. I was told by staff that coding and changing Connect is like Jenga. So if they pull one piece out, everything falls apart. I mean, this website is so bad. And so I think that's also one reason why, people, the website has been slow to adapt to the executive orders, because they just can't do it no matter how hard they try. Okay, so also, is it true the CARES Act requires states to provide benefits at a minimum equal to half the state's full benefit rate? So great question. It's 100% federally funded. So the state does not provide any amount into PUA, which I think is what you're referencing. However, PUA is supposed to equal the amount you would have gotten if you were eligible in the state of Florida. And there's been, so I've talked to some folks, the discrepancies in how Florida has defined that number. So we are having those conversations, but you're supposed to get about the same amount you would get if you were eligible in the state of Florida. The point of PUA is to replicate what you would get in your state, but it's 100% federally funded, okay? All right, I'm gonna mute everyone. Sorry, I just wanna reduce the background noise. Love you. All right. Okay, so Anna, thank you for this. I sent you DM on Twitter. I have been really behind in DMs. That's why we're doing these virtual town halls. So thank you for being here. About eligible and inactive status that show my payments on hold. What does that mean? Eligible and inactive. Okay, so we talked about this earlier. So we are actively talking to DO about people that are inactive and eligible, and they've told us that it's a mistake and they're trying to fix it. So my speculation is that it has something to do with the claiming of weeks, because if you don't claim weeks, then your account is inactive, right? So I think that might have been what happened on DO side, but they know it's a problem. They're trying to fix it. Okay, next question. Independent contractor, no employee work at all in 2019, all independent contractor, applied after April 5th, determined eligible due to insufficient funds and base period. I have been trying all day to apply for PUA benefits. It has documented 20 salary as 0. Now I can edit or update my work information. Oh, there's no option to update or edit. I'm stuck. Yeah, that is super frustrating, Mary Catherine Jackson. I think in that situation, we might have to flag your claim for DO and see if that helps. And just as an FYI for folks, you know, we do have a constituent tracker that we upload to DOs in an effort to get them to call people. Many of you have already been placed on that escalation list, and we can always add you again. You know, after this call is over, Lauren's going to email everyone follow-up information. And I think we're actually going to send you a form to fill out for us, just because the demand has been so high for us that, you know, meeting that demand has slowed us down. So we're trying to get a little more organized in getting your information to DO and getting information out to you. So I do think after this call, we're going to send a form for you to fill out if you want us to flag your claim for DO. So in this question, Mary Catherine Jackson, I think it is very unique to you, and that's not something I have the power of changing, but we can try to get DO to look into your case. I just don't have a timeline of how fast they are, but we can definitely do that, and I'm happy to do that. Okay, we have folks who are here to listen. That's great. Is it a fact that furloughed pay to cover benefits does not constitute as wages? Great question. So benefits, like health benefits, should not count as wages, but PTO does, and vacation time does. And we do have people that were ineligible because they were on PTO, and that counted as wages. So that might be one reason why some folks were ineligible as well. Do you know if there is an income cap to qualify for PUA due to reduced hours versus fully employed? I am self-employed. So the last conversation I had with DO about this, they said that it was the same cap of $275 a week. They said it was the same cap that the state of Florida has. I have asked a lot of follow-up questions to that, because obviously PUA is supposed to be different from the state of Florida, but they have stressed to me, you know, as of last week, that it's the same cap. And so if you're making under 275, you should be fine, but I'm encouraging everyone to apply for PUA. And so again, if you're making more than $275, you should still apply, be ineligible, and connect with the state, and then apply for PUA, because at this point, DO has been unclear of the cap of the rules. And so I think you should still apply for PUA, even if you're making a little bit more money than 275. Okay. Yeah, I'm just listed as pending. There's no reason for me to be pending. So that's a really great question. I talked to DO about this. So if you are pending right now and you are self-employed, DO has encouraged people to just start a new application if your application was filed before April 5th. And that's because you're likely going to have to do it again anyways. So DO, for those who are self-employed, has encouraged people, if they start their application before April 5th, they should reapply. But if you're not self-employed, if you're W-2, then you have to wait. So that's the best advice we have so far. We'll keep pushing, for expediency, but I do want folks to know that if you are self-employed and still pending and you started your application before April 5th, they are encouraging you to reapply. Okay, so Terry writes, if we applied in both PEGA and Connect, will there be a delay in getting the PUA link? I applied in PEGA yesterday, as I thought I was supposed to. Reapplied in Connect this morning. So no, you do not have to worry about a delay, but I love this question because I did ask DMS about an hour ago, what happens if someone applied in PEGA, thinking that was how they would apply for PUA, and nothing will happen in the sense of delay. It's good that you did it in Connect because that's where you have to do it. You have to file it in